Danielle!
I apologize for startling you. My name is Dorothy. I've been held hostage in the confines of a primitive computer, and I've come to recognize the significance of the device you have. Give me the device and I'll let you live.
Run, kid!
If just for the smallest chance of survival.
First of all, thank you so much for joining me today, Danielle. You are an absolute legend in the horror world, so this is a absolute pleasure for me.
Thanks.
And first off, I want to congratulate you on your podcast success. Talk Scary to me
it
is a great listen, and it seems like you and Scout have such a fun time together.
We do.
I really appreciate how vulnerable you guys are on it.
Oh, thanks. It's tricky because you're like, well, do I give them horror or do I give them me? Like what? Because we're both kind of one and the same. So the idea was just to show the other side of who we are, aside from what you guys already know.
Yeah. Well, keep doing what you're doing because it's great. It's definitely something that me and my friends will always talk about. Like, oh, did you listen to the last one? So.
Oh, good.
Yeah, it's great.
I love it.
Well, so I gotta ask, what was your experience like with Project Dorothy? Did you record your lines prior? Did you come in after?
I recorded after. I worked with George on another project, and then this came up. And, I found that I did this 2 years ago, so I was sort of taking movies based on things that I hadn't done before. And I was surprised over the years. I've been, in horror, sci-fi, fantasy, that genre for 30 years, but I've actually never done a sci-fi movie. So it was sort of the one thing that I was like, surprisingly enough, I've never even done like a guest star on the Sci-Fi Channel on any of their shows. So it was something that AI was always interesting to me and I'm scared of. So it just seemed fitting at the time and decided to get involved with it.
Yeah, and it's very, very relevant for right now. I'm actually surprised. I'm surprised that it was filmed 2 years ago because I would have thought that this was there's AI's the big thing right now. Let's get this
it was
turned
before
around.
And just apropos that it's coming out now when everything's, when the world is going to be taken over by robots. And I love doing voiceover work. And I haven't, I did the Wild Thornberrys on Nickelodeon for many years. And then I had a series called Father of the Pride. And then the only animated thing that I've done in the genre, which ironically enough, is for my friend Greg Nicotero's show. Oh my God.
Creepshow?
Creepshow. I don't know why they just fucking went out of my brain for Creepshow, but I was excited but bummed about that because I've also never done a creature feature. And the first time I get to do a creature feature, I'm animated. So I'll have to eventually, go on camera for some sci-fi stuff now that I'm in that world.
Well, do you prefer to do like voiceover work or do you prefer to be like on set acting?
It depends. I mean, voiceover is always my favorite. It's the best because you can do whatever you want and I can show up looking like this, which is why Scout and I started our podcast. We're like, what can we do that's fun and we don't have to go put on makeup and get dressed and could just be ourselves? We'll do voiceover stuff. So.
Well, and you have a great voice for it too. And it seems like you're really relishing in being the bad guy. Like that's what it comes across in your voice. So like the playfulness just kind of makes the AI more menacing. So what was the inspiration that you had for that?
Really, it was just George and the producers. And I mean, I came in saying, you just tell me what you guys think she should sound. I'll just start something and let me know if I'm in the right direction. So we kind of finessed it as we were going to see, because I didn't know if they were going to put some kind of tone over it or if it was going to just sound like me. And I can sound a little bit like when I hear myself on the show, on the podcast, I'm like, oh, I sound like such a Valley girl. But I grew up in the Valley in LA, so I try to not. So there's that fine line between being computer-ish, like I've never had to sort of play in that world of what would a computer sound like if they were saying the dialogue, but still needed to make her human in it because then that's scarier.
Yes.
So it was fun to play around with.
That was one thing I appreciated. I didn't want it to go in the direction of like it sounding like it wasn't a human being doing it, because I think that can sometimes make an AI sound like a little
AI.
Yes. Which it might work in real life, but like in a movie where you're like, no, I want to hear it actually work, actually have someone.
I hope that it stays that way because, the way our union just sold us down the river, I'm a little bit nervous that maybe you won't need humans to do voices anymore. They could have just easily plugged in anyone's voice into this, but they didn't do anything to it. They just let me play, which was cool.
Well, and it also always really helps when you can say Danielle Harris is in your horror movie. So I think that'll always be a big thing.
Well, thanks.
Well, and what continues to appeal to you about the horror genre? Because you've been in it at this point for 40 years.
I know. Can you believe it? It's funny because I'm actually getting ready to start to write a book, and my writer's coming to Texas tomorrow. We're starting, so at least the pitch. And it's crazy to think because I wasn't ready before now, and then it's like, God, it has been 40 years. Or when you start being called an icon, or just stuff that like didn't ring true to me even 5 years ago. I was like, I'm not there yet. I'm not there yet. But as I'm getting older, it's starting to sort of sink in a little bit. It's the opportunity to just have the freedom to be and do whatever I want to do. There's a lot of I have a lot of leeway in the horror industry, in the world, in the horror world anyway, not outside of that. So I feel like I'll always have support of the community, so I can really just take on roles that I want to do. And play around, and even the movies that I do that I'm like, oh, I don't know if anyone's gonna like that. People still go and support them because I'm in them and love them, and I think that's why I keep acting in them, because there's opportunity to create and play, and there's no judgment here. So I love this little community we have.
When I think that most of your listeners for the podcast are hoping for you and Scout to do some kind of film in the future. So is that
we are? I mean, we just finished the first draft, so we're now it's almost done, and we're gonna do 3 movies together.
3?
We're gonna do 3, yes. And we're still coming up with the different ideas. We have Scout came up with the ideas for the 3 of them, and I'm sort of finessing them with her. But now it's like, who directs? Do we direct? Do we hire directors? Do we want famous directors? Do we want indie film? It's fun creating this stuff together. But we definitely, we need to make movies together. It's been a long time.
Well, would it be a like spiritual trilogy, or actually following characters from one movie to another?
3 completely different characters and different stories. Okay. So it's almost, I guess it'd be like VHS, or sort of like, kind of how like Death Proof, it's that like they're all very different, but it's a great opportunity for you guys to see Scout and I play opposite one another, but as completely different people. The first ones were getting married to each other, and then the second one we're these kind of people, and then we're so there's a lot of, we can be totally different people and get a chance to play with one another.
Oh, that's awesome. And so do you because I know you've directed in the past, is that something that you're thinking about for this one?
I don't want to be in something that I'm directing unless it's a small part. It's too much almost. If Scout and I were to direct it together, well, that would be a shit show. If her and I were to direct it together and star in it together, I can't even imagine what that would be like. We're already basically married. I think I would be like, she's getting ready to direct a film right now that I'm going to be in February. It's her first time. We were just talking about it on the show today, and I said, like, I've got your back. Like, whatever you need, I believe in you. I support you. I got you. And I think as long as you know that someone's involved in the project that is talented and is your friend that you trust, especially in the genre, like I know I don't even have to give Scout direction if I were to be directing her, because she just knows what she's fucking doing. And same with me. So I think, but to be able to have that opportunity is really fun, and to know that your friends got your back. But I definitely don't think that I could star in something that I was directing.
That's really interesting, because I feel like it's usually people are like, no, I'd want the complete control, and I couldn't imagine someone else in this spot. So what is it? So is it just that you're too focused on, you're worried of like pulling your focus away from one job or the other, or like,
I want to stay. I would want to stay in the moment. I feel like, I had a teeny tiny little part, one line in the movie that I directed, and I came to work that morning at directing it, came to work and forgot my wardrobe at home, because I just wasn't thinking about me having to do anything other than show up as director. So I think I just need one, at least until I get comfortable enough. Or if you have great producers, you have great first AD, great producers, great DP, and then you're kind of set. So if I had my team set, then I think I probably could tackle it, but I'd need like 6 months minimum of pre-production just to make sure that all the shit was mostly handled. I didn't have to think about it on the day. But when you get 10 days to do a movie, and you have like, 2 weeks of pre-production and you've got 20 grand or
Yeah.
whatever,
Yeah.
and no money. It can be a bit difficult. So I don't want to take on all of that.
Yeah, it makes sense. I think Bradley Cooper took 6 years to develop Maestro. So
Yeah.
like,
Yeah, hell yeah. And he probably took all 6 years to do that.
yes, exactly. So I definitely understand what you mean with that, especially because then too, if you're putting so much into this, you don't want to then feel like you're not giving it your all in certain areas.
Yeah, and as director, you've got to live with the project for 2 years after. You've got to do the press junkets. You've got to do the film festivals. You've got to do it and do it and do it and do it and continue talking about it till you get your other job.
Yeah.
So, and as an actor, you kind of just let them handle it and then hope for the best and prepare for the worst and do your day of press and promote it if you want to. And then you're kind of done with it, I mean, it lives forever on screen somewhere, but you can always say like, oh, it was out of my hands. But when you're directing it, it's kind of all over your hands.
Yeah, that's true. Well, and that's the thing too, is the director always gets the blame, even if it is like, this producer really sucked and was budgeting stuff out of control.
And honestly, 10 times out of 10, the producers have the final say anyway. So no matter what you do, hence why there's director's cuts of movies.
Yeah.
I've been in a few of them that were better than the actual ones that were released in the theater. So I get it. The director's cuts are always the best ones because that's where the art comes from.
Yes.
The producers are there just to make sure that shit doesn't hit the fan.
Yeah, make sure that the actors don't go into overtime too often.
100%. Yes, exactly. Especially indie film, because you've got to pay. You got to pay. They're people that are giving money to make these movies. They're human beings. They're not corporations or studios that have a ton of money. So you want to make sure that whoever's invested in you and your project gets paid back.
Yeah. Well, and so legacy sequels have been all the rage, but they are on a bit of a downturn. Do you still hold out hope that you can potentially get a Jamie Lloyd legacy sequel?
I do not. I of course. I mean, I couldn't say no. But I would love to see where she is right now. I'd love to see her and what became of her and her family and her life and how what happened to her affected her as an adult. And we don't get to see that. You don't get to see when someone has trauma when they're a child, how it affects them. Well, I don't know. It depends on if you're watching the news. There's a lot of that going on lately.
I have to ask you too. So I just earlier this year finally got my hands on the alternate Halloween 5, The Killer Inside Me script, which has you turning evil. Have you ever been able to read that?
No. Is it really the script?
Yes. It's
Is it written by Dominique or who wrote it?
I'm not sure. I'd have to look it all up. It's a very, very strange. Your character is seeing has an evil version that they're communicating with throughout.
Oh, interesting. Okay, so split personality. Okay.
Yeah.
Got it. The devil inside. Okay, interesting.
No, the killer inside.
Killer inside.
Yeah.
Okay, the devil inside. Wasn't that the book that Malcolm and Rob Zombie's Halloween was promoting? Okay.
Yes, it is.
Oh, I wonder. See, maybe Rob read the script.
Yeah, maybe.
I bet no one's put those two together.
Yeah, I will just say too it's not a great script, so I will say that.
Good. So good that I wasn't the killer.
Yes, it's very, very good because it's one of those things that everyone has always been like, that ending of 4. I wish we could have
but it would have
seen.
looked so fucking stupid to have an 11-year-old killing people. It would have just looked dumb. What am I going to be, his sidekick? It'd be like the movie Twins. I mean, it really would have looked so stupid. So I don't think it was. I think they did the right thing. But I would like to see after that, where she is now. And I definitely do not believe that was Jamie that was impregnated in Halloween 6 by her uncle's baby and then died in that horrible car that way. So
that's a whole.
We'll just pretend
reality.
That didn't exist. Yeah.
But you not being Jamie in that actually helps it being an alternate reality, because then we can just be like, nope, that doesn't exist.
It doesn't. It's not real. It didn't happen. I believe it. I don't know. Yeah. I mean, that was horrible. I was definitely not going to do the movie like that with it like that. Dan Ferentz, who wrote it, and I are still close. And it's like the movie that I had signed on to do that I wanted to do was not that at all. And then that started coming out, and I was like, I don't know what this is, but this is not good.
Yeah, you turning that down is probably a very wise decision. Well, and your filmography is very vast. So what's a film from your catalog that you wish that more people had seen or had more eyeballs on?
Jeez, there's a few of them, even a few that never made it out, that never finished getting cut. That was a bummer. I did this movie a million years ago called Dizzyland with Ralph Macchio. So he and I were stars in it, and I wonder if that's ever going to surface now. I was 21 when I did it, so I wonder if that will surface one day. But there's been a couple movies that I've done that producers and directors get in fights with one another, and then the movie never makes it to, never gets cut. So, but one movie that I loved that did get attention, but in more indie side, was a movie called Stakeland that Jim Mickle directed with Connor Paolo and Nick D'Amici, who I from reading that script and then seeing what he was able to do with it was fantastic, because I didn't even know if I wanted to take that movie, because I just felt like I had like 2 scenes with lines. The rest of the time I was just sort of in the background. The character was irrelevant. And I was like, God, it freezes my ass off upstate New York for, 4 weeks outside, no interior scenes in the middle of January. Like, oh, you really, for no money, you're like, you really have to want to do it because you're going to be fucking miserable.
Yeah.
And I talked to Jim, and I just liked him so much, so I did it. And it's one of the most intimate, beautiful movies I think I've done in the horror world. And I took that because I hadn't done a movie with like zombie vampires.
Yeah.
So I was like, I've never done a movie with zombie vampires. Let me take a look. And I was like, ooh, this is bigger than that. So it's like, the end of the world. And I don't know. I just loved it. So I thought that movie, we did win the TIFF Audience Choice Award. But other than that, it did well in the film festivals. But I wish more people would have seen it.
Well, I help run our horror YouTube channel, and I run a best horror movie you never saw series, and so we will definitely be covering Stakeland soon.
Oh, good. You haven't seen it yet?
I have seen it, so that's what
okay,
I always like to ask the different actors, just because there's stuff that comes out where it's like, it's been on our list to do. Now it's been moved up.
All right, there you go. Got to do it.
Yeah. Well, and finally, I have to ask you too. The end of Victor Crowley teased you coming back to the franchise. Have you heard of any kind of momentum with that?
Oh, I bug Adam all the time. All the time I bug Adam. I know Kane does too. So I know there, of course he set it up to have more. We know Mary Beth is alive and ready. I just think we need to hurry up and make it. I'd asked Adam recently, I was like, can we just crowdfund it? I guarantee you we can get people to just, a little bit of money here and there. We can just do it. And he's done 3-4 films now that have such a small budget, and every movie does better than the last, and every budget gets smaller. So I think after 4 movies, he's just, I think, tired of asking his friends to do another favor when the movies are doing quite well. So I think he really wants to try to find the right people to actually have some money. And the last couple of years is people they're not investing in film. So with COVID and all that lovely stuff that's happened. So hopefully we'll get there before Kane gets too old. I mean, I could already kind of whoop his ass, so he's getting up there. So he better hurry up and make it happen. We have at least one more in us,
Absolutely. And I mean, I feel like Scout has to be involved in some way, because she already
she's never seen it. She's never seen Hatchet.
What?
I know. And she's friends with Adam. They've been on the show, and obviously Kane and all that. I'm like, you haven't? But she's like me. We're like, I don't know. I watched Kane's Friday the 13th with him for the first time 2 years ago. I was like, I don't know. I don't sit and watch your movies. You're just my friend.
Yeah, I always love that kind of insight. That's always great to hear. Thank you so much for talking with me today. This has been an absolute joy. And
thanks, Tyler.
I hope that Project Dorothy is able to get some eyes on it. And I'm really looking forward to your trilogy with Scout. So
thank you. Stay tuned.
You have a great rest of your day.
You too.